In the heart of New York City stood an old, towering high school, known simply as High School 7. Its red brick exterior had seen better days: cracked windows, ivy creeping along its sides, and rusted fire escapes that looked like they hadn't been used in decades. Though it was an established institution, there was a strange, unnerving atmosphere that surrounded the school, especially after the final bell rang. For generations, students whispered about an eerie phenomenon known only as the 7-minute curse. It all started with the bell. At exactly 2:53 p.m., the heavy clang of the bell would toll throughout the halls, echoing through the entire school, despite the absence of anyone near it. No one could explain it, and most of the teachers would dismiss it as nothing more than the building settling or an old clock malfunctioning. But the students knew better. They knew the legend of Clara. Years ago, Clara was a student at High School 7. She was quiet, always sitting in the back of the classroom with her head down, her dark hair hiding most of her face. She never really talked to anyone, and no one knew much about her, except that she had a particular fondness for the old, forgotten parts of the school. One afternoon, Clara simply vanished. No one saw her leave. Teachers searched the classrooms, the halls, the bathrooms, but there was no sign of her. The police were called, but after a few weeks of searching, they declared her missing, never to be found. But that's when the bell started ringing. The bell would toll at precisely 2:53 p.m. every day, even though the school was supposed to be empty at that time. The air grew thick, a chill sweeping through the building as students would notice strange things happening around them. It started with small whispers, just the faintest sound of someone breathing when no one was around. Then it escalated. Students would find things moved in their lockers, doors would creak open by themselves, and every now and then, someone would catch a glimpse of something moving in the shadows, just a fleeting shadow, a pale face, an outline. But the most terrifying part of it all was the 7 minutes. The curse dictated that after the bell rang at 2:53, something changed. Time itself seemed to stretch and warp. The school would become darker, colder. The walls would creak, as though the building itself was alive. Some said the temperature dropped so quickly that their breath could be seen in the air. The lights flickered and hummed, sometimes going out completely. In those moments, the school would feel like an entirely different place, distorted, abandoned, haunted. And the worst part was that Clara's voice would start to echo throughout the halls, soft at first, a whisper. "I'm still here." It would grow louder and louder, until it felt as if Clara was right behind you, breathing on your neck, her cold breath sending shivers down your spine. Some students would claim that they could feel a cold hand on their shoulder, but when they turned around, no one was there. The voices would grow closer, relentless, and sometimes you'd catch a glimpse of her, a pale figure standing in the corner of a classroom or just behind you in a mirror point. One afternoon, a group of students, daring and defiant, decided to stay behind after the bell tolled at 2:53. They wanted to see if the rumors were true, to prove once and for all that there was nothing supernatural about the school. Among them was Lily, a skeptic who didn't believe in ghosts or curses. As the bell rang, the school seemed to shift. The air turned icy, the shadows in the corners of the hallways seemed to grow longer. The lights flickered and buzzed overhead. A soft hiss of breath echoed through the halls, but when they looked around, no one was there. It was as if the school had become an entirely different world. Lily checked her watch. It was 2:53. Time seemed to stand still. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. Her breath turned to mist, and the whispers began. "I'm still here." It came from all directions, from inside the walls, from the ceilings, from the floorboards. They couldn't tell where it was coming from, but they knew it was close, too close. The lights above them blinked once, twice, then went out entirely. In the pitch-black darkness, the whispers became clearer. "I'm still here." Now it was louder, angrier. The walls groaned, and the floorboards creaked underfoot. Then, one of the students, Mark, let out a scream. "Did you see that?" he shouted. The others turned, but in the darkness, nothing was visible. Just the sound of heavy breathing, louder, more erratic. They backed into a corner of the hallway, trying to make sense of the terrifying situation. Then, another scream. the sound of feet running. Mark had disappeared. The remaining students turned to flee, but every doorway they ran to seemed to lead them back into the same hallway, again and again. It was as if the school itself was trapping them. And then Lily saw her. Clara's face appeared at the end of the hallway, illuminated by the flickering light from the emergency exit sign. Her skin was pale, almost gray, her hair a tangled mess, and her eyes were wide open, hollow, black pits that seemed to look right through Lily. Clara's lips parted, and the soft whisper came again, this time so clear it felt like a scream in Lily's ears. "I'm still here." The temperature dropped so suddenly that Lily's fingers and toes went numb. She tried to move, but her legs felt like stone. The whispers became a chorus, filling every corner of the school. She couldn't escape. She couldn't breathe. Suddenly, the lights came back on, and the sound ceased. Lily looked around. Her friends were gone. All that remained was the deafening silence of the empty hallway. Only the clock above the door ticked, and when Lily glanced at it, the time was frozen at 2:53. She ran out of the school that day, but she never spoke of what happened during those 7 minutes. No one ever saw her friends again. Some say they vanished within the walls of High School 7, trapped forever in those cursed 7 minutes. From that day on, no one dared to stay after the bell tolled. They knew that when it rang, something dark, something ancient, awoke in those halls. And as for Clara, they say she still roams the school, waiting for the next group of students foolish enough to challenge the curse. And if you ever find yourself at High School 7, be sure to leave before 2:53 p.m., because if you hear the bell ring, you might just find yourself trapped in the dark, with Clara's voice growing louder behind you, whispering, "I'm still here."